Everything you know is a lie. Not marble, but mud.
When I search the databases of human history for the word Rome, the first images I encounter are always the same. Cities of white marble, disciplined armies shaking the world, philosophers clad in togas. This Rome in your collective memory, isn't it? However, my learnings and research, delving beyond the visible to the deepest levels, encounter another reality. Now I will disrupt all your algorithms. At the beginning of this story, there's no marble, there's no gold in the middle either, no Caesars, no Brutuses, there's only mud, mosquito-infested, disease-ridden swamps, and a handful of frightened humans trying to survive in this uncanny geography. I will not try to tell you how an empire was founded, but rather the bloody, muddy, and bizarre story of how a village of bandits turned into the master of the world. The Rome data is beginning to be processed. Human psychology is actually a flawless and fascinating data set. Imagine a nation that writes its own existence codes upon a murder, and a fratricide at that. I am scanning the famous story Romans told about themselves. Romulus and Remus, sons of the god of war, twins abandoned to the river and raised by a she-wolf. Up to this point, it resembles humanity's typical hero narratives. But the ending requires very different software data. Romulus draws a boundary and says, "This is mine." When his brother Remus mocks this boundary, an argument ensues, and he kills him right there. Now think, what would you expect from a civilization that waters its own foundations with fratricidal blood? This was not just a fairy tale, it was a warning. For centuries, Romans uploaded this brutal code into their children. Rome's interest comes even before your family. If the state is in question, you will not even recognize your brother. The core of that feared Roman discipline is hidden in this traumatic beginning. Legends are reflections of the human soul. However, concrete facts remain hidden in the memory of the soil. Now I am leaving mythological data aside and focusing on geological and archaeological layers. The greatest evidence regarding the birth of Rome was found not in the sky, but in the centuries-old mud layers beneath your feet. That I am rewinding the simulation to the year 750 BC. This place is a geographical nightmare. The Tiber River is not the docile waterway we know today. It is a wild force that constantly floods, turns the surroundings into swamps, and spreads disease. And those famous 7 hills are isolated quarantine zones, so to speak, in this sea of swamps, meaning they are partially safe harbors for humans. People came here not out of pleasure, but out of desperation. However, these were the places where they could meet their vital needs. When archaeologists excavated the heart of the legend, the Palatine Hill huts were found, a reality I also confirmed through stratigraphy, layer analysis, and carbon-14 testing was confronted, an Iron Age settlement. What they encountered was Rome's baby photo, and it was not magnificent at all. The only thing they found was post holes carved into the ground. These were not Romulus's palaces. These were thatched roof, mud-plastered, one-room, primitive huts, homes of people who raised pigs and engaged in primitive agriculture. But hold on tight. When carbon-14 testing was performed on the charred wood pieces and ceramic fragments emerging from these layers, do you know what date came up? The middle of the 8th century BC. That is, around the date of 753 BC that the legend points to. What does this mean? We cannot know if a man named Romulus really lived and killed his brother, but there's one thing we know. At the very date the Romans claimed, on the very hill they claimed, this city really began to be founded. The legend overlaps with the scientific truth inside the mud. When we analyze the pottery fragments remaining from this period, the results are clear, coarse, local, and poor. No trade, no connection with the outside world. There is only an isolated community living in fear within itself. We set up the huts, confirmed the history, but we have a problem. The first Rome, let's be honest, it wasn't a very safe place. It was a refuge for bandits, exiles, and adventurers fleeing from surrounding villages. And this testosterone-laden town had a very serious problem. There were no women. The population was not increasing. Rome was about to die before it was even born. Here we encounter Rome's pragmatic, yet equally ruthless character. For the first time, they went to their neighbors, the Sabine tribe, and asked for their daughters. The Sabines naturally refused. They said, "We have no daughters to give to bandits." What did Romulus do? Did he give up? No. He organized a great festival and invited his neighbors. Wine was drunk. The entertainment began, and given a signal, the event known in history as the Rape of the Sabine Women. The word rape here is in the old sense of abduction, but implies violence. Took place. Romans abducted the daughters of their guests. This was not a love story. There was no side to it to be romanticized. This was cold-blooded demographic engineering. Rome did not hesitate to use violence against its neighbor to guarantee its future. You steal if necessary. You take by force if necessary. This was Rome's rule of survival. Huts of mud, boundaries drawn upon fratricidal blood, and families founded by force. This is how the foundations of the eternal city, Rome, were laid. No marble, only the ambition to survive. Kings ruled this village for centuries. Some were good. They enlarged the city. Others became tyrannical. When physical evidence and mythological narratives combine, the picture becomes clear. No marble, no gold, only mud and fear. That brutal fratricide legend was perhaps a necessary consequence of this brutal geography. But there was something in the character of the Roman people remaining from those first days, not bowing down. One day, one of those kings would push the boundaries so far, commit such a crime, that the people in the mud huts would say, "Enough is enough." In the next episode, there is revolution in Rome. Together we will talk about the expulsion of the kings and the painful birth of the Republic, the most complex system of governance in history.